Hey there, welcome to Creators Wanted. Thanks for being here. Go ahead and get comfortable, but not too comfortable. We're just getting started, but we're planning on having a little bit of fun. Because while we all might be at home, we're definitely going places. Today is about opportunities. I guess when you think about it, every day is an opportunity. But this one's different. This is about your future and the future of manufacturing, and how you can be a part of it. You see, creators and the things they create are all around us. But manufacturing is more than just making. It's about problem solving and meeting challenges. And this year, there's been no bigger challenge than the global pandemic. Manufacturing has been an essential part of seeing us through the crisis. It's provided a means of production and delivery for treatment and preventative care. Creators and their resourcefulness and resolve have been a critical part of that. And we're going to continue to need them as we move forward. But moving forward means finding more creators. According to the Manufacturing Institute and Deloitte, there's so much to do that we're going to need millions of them. And we have a plan for finding them. Events like today's are the first step. We want to reduce the skills gap in the US, and in doing so, increase the diversity of the manufacturing workforce. And if we're going to do that, people have to know what's out there, right? We want to show creators like you the kinds of careers that are available. Chances are, there are some great ones right in your backyard. Careers with competitive salaries, room for growth, and most of all, work that's meaningful. It's time. It's time to rethink a career in manufacturing. It's time to reconsider what it means to be a creator. It's time to make the future. We're glad you're here. Hey everyone, and welcome to Creators Wanted. I'm your host, Aaron Smalls. It's March and we're celebrating Women's History Month, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. Today, we're celebrating the women who make manufacturing and the moms who do it all. We're in South Carolina, and before we kick things off, I wanna mention a few things. First things first, I want to talk about the chat bar. If you look over on the right side of the screen, you're going to notice that chat bar, and that's how you're going to be able to interact and engage with us throughout the show. Later on, we're going to have a live Q&A, and you guys are going to be able to submit some questions, but you're going to have to be logged in to do that, so go ahead and get signed in now. Also, throughout the program, you're going to notice some clickable links pop up on the screen. If you click on those, it's going to give you more information on who we're talking to and what we're talking about. And you're definitely going to want to stick around for our creators quiz, where we're going to put your manufacturing knowledge to the test by posing a trivia question. It's Women's History Month. We're going to celebrate women, so thank you to all the women out there. Welcome again to Creators Wanted, and in the words of Fergie and the Black Eyed Peas, let's get it started.
Manufacturing is this ever-changing world. Technology's changing, the skill set's changing, the people are changing, and I think that's what pulls people to the industry.
But now we have to ensure that it is a plant for our mothers and our aunts, our sisters, our daughters, and even grandmothers like me. Because it takes more than holding open new doors. It's also about encouraging, in fact, inviting women to walk through them.
Don't let anybody else tell you where you belong is absolutely no longer just an option or a choice. It's an absolute fundamental right of every woman to be wherever they fit in, wherever they want to.
Manufacturing is the backbone of our economy. So when you think about your accomplishments, think about the reach and influence of those accomplishments. You help make everyday life better for people everywhere.
Let's go ahead and keep things rolling here by introducing our very first guest. She's no stranger to Creators Wanted. We're introducing the Executive Director of the Manufacturing Institute, Carolyn Lee.
Hi, Aaron. Good to see you.
Hey, Carolyn, welcome back. So here we go. This is take 5. You're no stranger. We've got 5 minutes to really dive in. And we're celebrating women this month. So talk to me about the landscape of women in manufacturing. What does it look like for them?
So today we have about 29% of the manufacturing workforce is women, but over 47% of the U.S. labor force is made up of women. So obviously we have a big gap to fill for women in manufacturing. Now we've made progress. About 10 years ago when we started our STEP Women's Initiative, which I'll talk about in a minute, we were only at 24%. So we have made progress, but here's the thing, and this is why this is such a critical issue as we talk about the number of open jobs we have, which today in manufacturing is over 500,000. It's actually 515,000 open jobs in the sector, is that women is our largest pool of untapped talent. If we can add the number of women, if we could increase the number of women in manufacturing by 10%, we'll close the skills gap that we see over the next 10 years by 50%. So, let's talk about the skills gap. By 2030, we expect over 2 million jobs that we're going to need that are going to go unfilled because we don't have the people with the talent. That's where reaching out to women and bringing more women into manufacturing is so critical.
And bringing women into manufacturing, it's a critical thing. But these women that are potentially going to come into it or looking to get into it, what are they looking for?
Great question. So when we go out and survey women who have participated in our programs, and we said to them, like, what is important to you in a job? What are you looking for in a career? And what they say, it's no surprise. It's no different, really. But the ordering is a little bit different. So they say, of course, attractive pay. They say challenging and interesting work, right? More and more people want to make sure they're doing something that's interesting, that they're excited about, right? You spend more time at work than you do with your family. And whether you're remote or on premises these days. So being excited and interested in what you're doing matters, but also work-life balance. And that doesn't mean that women are the only caretakers. Of course, they aren't. Today's families are all sorts of different composition. And so everyone has somebody that they're helping take care of, but that balance really matters, and the ability to adjust how your schedule looks to deal with the caretaking responsibilities you have in your life. Those things really matter.
And you talk about work-life balance. You're going to need that support when you're at home, and you're going to need that support when you're on the job. And there's a lot of different programs and initiatives. And you mentioned STEP. So let's get into STEP and just telling us what exactly STEP is.
Great. STEP is, it's our STEP Women's Initiative, and that stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Production. And, our STEP Women's Initiative is going into our 9th year, and it's really the nation's marquee program for women in manufacturing, and it's dedicated to fostering a 21st century modern manufacturing workforce that gives women the recognition and the support they deserve. So when we started this initiative back in 2012, it came out of a report, out of studies that we did, that found that women really felt like they needed the network and the mentor and the role models in the sector in order to continue to achieve in the sector. And that's where highlighting the women who are successful and who are leading today has become so important. So over the last several years, we have honored over 1,150 women who have been Step Ahead winners, and they're charged with paying it forward to that next generation. And so we have in-person and virtual events all year long through Step Forward, as well as an online community to engage those women so that they see the opportunity to learn from one another and to have that strength from one another.
And that's the goal here of Creators Wanted, and I'll continue to say it, is really closing that skills gap, adding to the diversity. And as you mentioned, women are such a critical part of that. So as we come to the end here of this Take 5, are there any final thoughts or insights that you would like to share with the women that are watching?
Absolutely. And that is that manufacturing has a place for you. If you want to be creative and problem solve, and you want to be part of a team, and you want to have an impact on your community and your country and your world with what you do, manufacturing is a great place for you. And we are excited, and the industry is leaning forward into that.
Well, Carolyn, thank you again so much for being here on Creators Wanted. We've got a lot of powerhouse women on the program today. So I'm going to thank you for being here, and we're going to keep on moving so we can meet some of these incredible women.
Great. Thanks, Aaron.
It's always great getting to hear from Carolyn. But now it's time for conversations with a creator. Here at Creators Wanted, we're driving towards closing the skills gap in manufacturing. And our next guest definitely has the experience to help us do so. She has a strong background in creating and building operations from their infancy. And she's a senior executive of Volvo Car USA and director of Volvo Car University. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Katarina Fiordi.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here, Katarina. And I know that you've been in the automotive industry for more than 30 years now, and you've been working for major OEMs, and you're a trained mechanical engineer. Can you give us a few highlights of your career trajectory from where you started out to where you are now?
Absolutely. I think I'm the living proof of how you can have such a multifaceted career in this industry. I had the opportunity to work all over the world. I worked in Europe, I worked in Asia, I worked in the US, and I started out as a design engineer in product development. And then I worked in new vehicle projects and industrial launches. I headed up manufacturing engineering. I've been responsible for manufacturing both in Asia and in America, also logistics and procurement. I established industrial footprints and built plants. And now I'm actually working a lot with commercial operations, our retail partners, and I'm heading up sustainability and also collaborating with Yale University.
It's quite a career that you've had so far. A lot of great highlights there in your career. And I know that you previously served as an executive board member for the South Carolina Chamber of Commerce, and you helped develop that Manufacturing Employer of the Year award. And in 2018, I believe it was, 50% of those recipients were female. So I know that mentoring and helping women is hugely important to you. What would you tell women considering a career in manufacturing?
Do it. I have never regretted going into industry, and manufacturing today in respected companies it's clean, it's safe, it's well paid, and it's at creating is very rewarding. And also manufacturing industry is very broad. The career possibilities are endless, both for generalists and specialists. And it's also very interesting and it's fun. And if for whatever reason you would choose to want to go somewhere else, having a background in industry and manufacturing is highly coveted from other areas of business.
That's incredible. I love hearing that. And for those that are watching that are here with us today, why is Volvo Car a preferred company to work for?
If you work for Volvo Cars, you work for a highly respected brand and a very progressive company that is in the forefront of innovation and technique in a very fast-paced and multifaceted industry. And Volvo Car is an equal opportunity employer with a very strong people culture and values that relates to diversity and inclusion, safety, and also sustainability. And as you may know, we have a very ambitious sustainability agenda. And also we have very generous benefits, which include parental leave, which is the same for hourly and salary workers.
Sounds like a great company to work for there, Volvo Car. Now, we only have a couple minutes left here. So before I let you go, Katarina, is there any other insight, anything else that you'd like to share with the women that are watching or any of our Creators Wanted guests today?
Yes, I think it's very interesting that United Nations have now concluded that to drive real diversity and also resilience and a fair society, you actually don't only need to have a diverse group within the company, but actually having more women in STEM, in engineering and technique where the value is created has a higher impact on driving diversity. And if for nothing else, that's a good reason to going into engineering and manufacturing.
And that's what Creators Wanted is all about. It's about decreasing that skills gap and really increasing that diversity. So I thank you so much, Katarina, for being here. And I look forward to talking with you again in the future.
Thank you.
What a great conversation with a creator that was. Thank you again to Katarina for being here with us on Creators Wanted. And with all that great knowledge, I'm going to put you to the test and test your knowledge, because we're moving into our Creators Quiz. Here we go, kicking off another standard Creators Wanted segment, our Creators Quiz. We're going to put you to the test by asking you a trivia question based on the manufacturing industry, and we're going to see how many of you get it correct. This question is a multiple choice question, and you're going to have 20 seconds to get those answers in. So go ahead, get yourselves loose, because here comes your question. The question is, women represent over half of the overall workforce, but in manufacturing, what percentage of the workforce do they represent? Is it A, less than 33%, B, less than 27%, C, less than 9%, or D, less than 41%? Your 20 seconds starts now. All right, so once again, the answers are A, less than 33%, B, less than 27, C, less than 9, or D, less than 41. You've got under 10 seconds to get those answers in. Let's find out who is going to get it correct. Last couple seconds here, and that is time. All right, once again, the question is, women represent over half of the overall workforce, but in manufacturing, what percentage of the workforce do they represent? It was A, less than 33, B, less than 27, C, less than 9, D, less than 41. And if you selected A, then you are correct. Less than 33% of women represent the workforce in manufacturing. Well, if you got it correct, well done. If you got it incorrect, I guess you're just gonna have to test your luck in the future with another Creators Quiz. But right now, I want to keep this program moving by meeting another engaging female leader in manufacturing. Let's go ahead and have a conversation with a creator. Let's continue to put the spotlight on female leaders in manufacturing. Our next conversation with a creator is with Senior Director for National Strategy and Engagement for Boeing, South Carolina. She's really turning dreams into a reality. It's my pleasure to introduce to Creators Wanted, Lindsay Leonard.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here today.
Hey, Lindsay, thanks for being here. And I heard that you're coming up on 7 years with Boeing. Congratulations on that.
That's right. I will honestly say I never imagined that my career was going to take me to being a key member of the Boeing South Carolina leadership team, running a major manufacturing facility and building airplanes. And I will say that there is not a day that I have looked backwards. It has been a remarkable experience.
That's amazing. So you've been there for 7 years, so you've got some kind of a wealth of knowledge. Why is it that women should consider a career in manufacturing?
Well, I think, traditionally women sort of, for me, even personally, you had an idea of what manufacturing was like. And certainly manufacturing of the 20th century was complicated. But in today's world with a global supply chain, the information age, and the products that are built, it's a really complex industry to be in. And so for me, it's the challenge of the day-to-day, but it's also the strategic future of a major manufacturing facility. It's the employees that are there day in and day out, and how we get to sort of be a part of all of that has been, it's been a wonderful experience. And I say that because it's been a great professional experience. And there's nothing that I would say to anybody that would sort of not, herald that as the a key point. But more than that, it's been a really enriching and personally fulfilling experience in my soul. And I know that might sound a little bit like a cliche, but to be part of something that has so much complexity and changes so much and touches so many people's lives, it's been an honor and a privilege to be part of.
You say it's really fulfilling for you. What is it that maybe now you feel is really fulfilling, but maybe back when you first started, you didn't think?
I would tell you, and even the people that sort of hired me, I mean, we would all say, I'm not sure anybody knew what something as new as Boeing, South Carolina was going to be. And so why it has ultimately become that way is that, Boeing took a real community participation approach in South Carolina, both internally and externally. We recognized that, it's where our teammates live and work. And we do many things all across the country, and globe for that matter. But when you're doing something new for the first time, there hadn't been wide bodies ever built outside of, Everett and Toulouse, France. So it's only the third place it's ever happened. And so we all got to be part of, and are still a part of, building something. I think that that's probably the advice I would give to people and women in particular considering manufacturing, is that, you're part of building the product. In our case, it's airplanes. You're part of building, an ecosystem. You're part of building people's futures, and manufacturing facilities are generational career choices. They're around for much longer than my individual career. And so everything that I get to do, pretty much everything I get to do, I see a tangible result. And that's a pretty cool place to find yourself in your career.
Yeah, I love that. It's what you guys do. It's that the Dreamliner effect, as you guys call it, creating those remarkable opportunities. And for women that want to get into it, how does Boeing offer support for those women in the workforce? So
there's a myriad of ways. I will speak to my own sort of personal experience. The woman who brought me into the company, my greatest ally, they've been women. It's been women. And so, since the day I walked in, I remember a moment very early in my tenure where I was realizing that most of the leadership team at that point in time, I think I was the only woman. And I was also really fairly young. And I sat there and looked at the room and had the awareness that that was the case, but also that I felt completely supported and welcomed, and that all of these people wanted to help me learn airplanes and learn how to be in manufacturing and learn how to achieve in this environment. And so, it's been fantastic. What we do sort of more on a larger scale is, we have really strong mentoring programs. We have a business resource group, is what we call it, Boeing Women in Leadership. We support, women in aviation, Society of Women Engineers. And those are sort of the formal groups that one can be a part of. But we reach, it's not just good enough for us to stay within our workforce. We reach well back into the pipeline. And in Boeing, South Carolina, we support early childhood education and the things that help girls succeed. We do, we're in the churches, in the faith-based community. We sponsor something called the Dream Girls Conference in a local church. And, we introduce a girl to engineering day and lots of initiatives that, many manufacturers will participate in, but we really try to be intentional about how we are exposing girls to the opportunities in manufacturing.
Some incredible opportunities there. I really love that Dreamliner effect that you guys have. And I want to thank you so much for being here with us on Creators Wanted. Before I let you go, do you have any final thoughts that you want to share for those women that are watching, whether they're in high school or they're just coming up and they're younger than that, or maybe they're females that are veterans that are looking to get into manufacturing? Do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'm here in South Carolina, so I kind of have to take the low country into consideration. And I would just say that in manufacturing, the world is your oyster. It's endless possibility and opportunity. And if you reach out for something that maybe you didn't think was going to be your path, it may provide you personal growth and benefits in ways that you never thought possible from your career.
Well, thank you so much for being
here.
We
Thank you for
really
having
appreciate you.
me.
Absolutely. And we're going to have to talk more about the big five back there on our future conversation.
Absolutely.
Well, you have a great day, and thanks for being here with us on Creators
You too.
Wanted.
Thanks.
Thank you again to Lindsay Leonard there in our Conversations with a Creator. But now it's time for a one-on-one with Lou Kennedy. Lou Kennedy is the president, CEO, and owner of Nephron Pharmaceutical Corporation. It's a certified woman-owned business. She's making an incredible impact, and she's inspiring women both in and outside of the manufacturing industry. It's my pleasure to welcome to Creators Wanted, Lou Kennedy.
Hello, Aaron. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thanks for being here with us, Lou. We've only got a few minutes to chat with you because we've got a pretty loaded program here today. So let's dive right into it. Lou, let's talk about your start. You originally didn't start out in manufacturing. You went to school for journalism, and you potentially wanted to be a TV chef or a TV personality there. How did your career trajectory kind of change from that to where you are today?
Well, I met my now husband in the year 2000, and I was fascinated by the manufacturing process really my whole life. My father was in manufacturing of plastic and fiber, so I've been around it my whole life. But when my husband started explaining that he was a manufacturer of respiratory medications, and my child had actually taken those medications, I became more and more interested. I started with the sales and marketing, which is my whole life. I've been in sales and marketing and of various types, or public relations, advertising, product launch. So this was just kind of a natural. I started our sales force, and then by 2007, learned enough about the business that my husband asked to make it a woman-owned business. He wanted to take a much slower role with the company. And so I did that in 2007 and had quite a steep learning curve, being a journalism major, not a chemist or a engineer. So I can tell you what we do around here. I may not hold my own in another company, but I can hold my own around our company and the requirements and what we need to do in this manufacturing facility.
I'm sure there were a lot of learning opportunities and a lot of growth that had to happen going from journalism to sales into pharmaceuticals. So what was that road kind of like? Were there challenges that you faced, and specifically were there challenges as a woman that you faced?
Yes, I mean, this is a very non-traditional female role. There aren't too many of me as CEO in the pharma or device industry. And, it's a shame too, because what we bring to the table, I believe, is a great attention to detail and many other strengths, even our emotional intelligence and so forth, really can help move an organization forward. And I think sometimes the fact that I am not ordained, let's say, in the full-on engineering path or a chemistry path, allows me to think about things in a more common sense way. And oftentimes it's the common sense opinion that gets the job done, not always the science or the data driving it. So I feel like that, I'm almost the only woman in the room when we're dealing with our bankers, most of the attorneys. It's very common for me to be in a room full of men, and I embrace it. I think I've always believed it's the right person for the job, not the right gender for the job. And so I just tackle anything the way I would, whether I'm male or female, like get the job done, find out what you need, get your tools, get your, the data that you need, and then attack it. And so I feel very, very comfortable, even though I am oftentimes the only female in the room.
You talked about getting the right person for the job. We're kind of focusing on women this month with Women's History Month. What is it that Nephron Pharmaceutical does to attract and to retain its women, its female employees?
Well, I think we model it every day. We're 53% female in this workforce. We are, I think we attract other women because we're living it every day. And so I think females find the environment here welcoming, and when we're interviewing, I don't think about I need a female or a male for the role. Again, always look for the right person. But I do believe because we have a lot of high energy, um, great work ethic females here, we tend to attract that type of personality here in our workforce, and it's served us well. I mean, we've had, as was mentioned, unprecedented growth since I've started with the company, and we have 42 countries represented here. It's the most diverse workplace. I love it because we have so many countries represented. I was only able to get to 35 countries when we were headquartered in Orlando, Florida. Now that we're in South Carolina, we have a wall that represents if you were born in another country, we have your flag on the wall, and we have 42 of those unique flags. And we all know the more diverse we are, the more productive we are. The data shows it over and again. So the fact that we have this many women, we have over 30% African American in our business, which is well over the ratio in the state of South Carolina. I'm proud of those facts, and the results speak for themselves. We are diverse and we are inclusive, and I think because we model that behavior, we attract those types of personalities.
That's great. Yeah. And you've been there at Nephron for, I think, almost 20 years, and you've been the CEO for about 3/4 of that time there. If you were to go back to the beginning of all of this, and you were to think about maybe skills that you wish you had coming in, or skills that you could have cultivated or learned more about that would have helped you in your career, what would those be? What would you suggest for other people that are considering a career in manufacturing?
Well, growing up, I was always great or excelled in the languages, reading comprehension, all of the, let's call them usually right brain topics or subjects. I wish that I had taken chemistry, even if I'd made a C. I wish that I had spent more time in the sciences. Certainly that would have helped. I also didn't spend enough time around any type of accounting. So when you take on the role as CEO, you're responsible for everything in the business, the profit and loss responsibility, knowing how to read a P&L sheet, understanding what the tests that you're performing in your laboratories, what is expected to get a true and complete certificate of analysis on each lot of drugs produced. So I would definitely say and I encourage teachers all the time, even if a child tends to show the tendencies of a right or left brain, the left brainers need to have communication skills, and those of us who love to communicate need some accounting and science skills. So I think it's good to encourage all students to get a blend along the road, not just stick to one core set of topics or subjects.
And my final question for you here, Lou, I know you're really busy, so thank you for taking the time out to be here with us on Creators Wanted. My final question for you is, do you have any insights, any final thoughts that you can share for not only women that are considering a career in manufacturing, but anyone that's considering it? What's exciting about it to you?
Be bold. Don't be afraid to fail, because this is one thing as women, we tend to want to have practice, 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 and then we're going to be perfect. I think be bold and don't be afraid to fail.
That's a great lesson. Well, thank you again to Lou Kennedy, President, CEO, and owner of Nephron Pharmaceuticals. Lou, I look forward to talking with you again in the future. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Welcome to part 2 of today's Creators Wanted. Today's event has been Creator Stories, Women Make Manufacturing, presented by Nephron Pharmaceuticals. Creators Wanted, once again, is a movement to reduce the skills gap, increase diversity, and engage the next generation of creators in manufacturing. And our upcoming and final panel of the day is Voices from the Field, Moms in Manufacturing. We're going to hear from more industry leaders who are sharing their stories. We're celebrating these women who are making America and shaping modern manufacturing. Before I introduce you to these women, a few things I want to go over with you guys before we get started here. Don't forget the chat function is over on the side of the screen. That's how you guys are going to be able to engage and interact and ask questions during this live panel and Q&A that we're doing here. So if you're not logged in yet, go ahead and log in for us so that you guys can ask those questions. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first guest for the panel. This is Vice President of Strategic Program Engagement for the Manufacturing Institute, AJ Jorgensen.
Thank you, Aaron. And I am honored to be here today with Mina Banashak and Brooke Wynn, two amazing MFG women. Mina, as the Vice President of Quality and Corporate Social Responsibility at Phoenix, tell me a little bit more about your role and about Phoenix.
Sure, thanks, AJ. So Phoenix is an injection molding manufacturer of packaging for the food industry and several other markets as well. And I've been with the company, which is family owned and privately held, for about 3 years now as the head of quality. And just as of this year, my role has been expanded to take on corporate social responsibility, which is, I think, a fantastic response to just the need that exists out there in a lot of different ways to bring a more diverse pool of talent into the company and respond to just the call to action to support our communities above and beyond just the business that we run. So I'm slated to build a strategy and a framework for that, and I've got my work cut out for me, but I'm thrilled.
I love that. Congratulations, by the way, too.
Thank you.
Brooke, Senior Director of Sustainability at Smithfield Foods. Tell us a little bit about being the Senior Director of Sustainability and about Smithfield.
Yep. Thank you, AJ. Yeah, so I assumed my current role just last year in November of 2020. Prior to that, I've been with Smithfield since 2003. All in a technical food safety and quality assurance based role. Prior to taking my sustainability role, I was a senior director for quality assurance. My scope, we had over 25 of our manufacturing facilities in our team, all regulatory labeling compliance. In my new role, I am over our entire corporate sustainability program, which does include social compliance for all of our vendors. So it is a very different challenge from the day-to-day within the manufacturing facilities, but I'm looking forward to it.
It's perfect. Well, let's get into the topic, which is working moms. So working moms cite several issues that this pandemic has really highlighted. So feeling like they need to be available to work all the time, always be on. Worry that their performance is being judged negatively, especially as compared to their male colleagues. So the idea being that if a guy has a kid, it's cute. And if a woman does, it's distracting. And then, of course, just sharing the challenges with our managers. So those blurred lines between professional and personal. So the first question I want to ask is how is this emotional and burden affecting you in your work?
Sure, yeah, I can take that to start. It was so important to me to reestablish boundaries, especially that those boundaries themselves were becoming completely blurred, that personal and professional are all happening in one place for those of us who are able to work from home. And you know, that we have to own those boundaries and communicate them. It's a major first step to establish what that boundary looks like for you yourself. You know, how can you be comfortable and confident with the work that you're capable of doing, given a whole new set of constraints as we've faced in the last year, and then communicate them. And I understand that conversation can be challenging, but anymore, we're doing ourselves a huge favor by having uncomfortable and challenging conversations, because we'll never change the status quo without having that first step, right? So we can't apologize for our circumstances. We need to own the reality and model it as being normal for everybody else that's watching.
I love that. Own it and not apologize. I think that's so important, especially for women. Brooke, anything to add?
Yeah, I think to add to that, owning the new normal, you know, we have kids in the background of most of our conversations, you know, trying to establish boundaries with the children that are in your house and letting them know, you know, I'm in a meeting, I am at out of scope for the next 30 minutes or an hour, and trying to explain to them and have them understand your job functions and needs and those boundaries, but also be accepting when they do barge in on you, because it does happen. And I think as an industry, we're becoming more accepting of that and understanding, and we shouldn't be embarrassed that it happens.
That it's so true. And I love the idea of modeling the behaviors, especially from leadership, so that it becomes more normal. So just as importantly, this domestic inequity has really affected women's careers. And, we've all heard about the mom gap years, right? Where women leave the workforce until their children become school aged. We know data shows that women only apply to positions if they are 100% qualified compared to their male counterparts at 60% qualified. So we know there's some challenges. And in light of this, what can manufacturers specifically do to support working moms and encourage their development?
Yeah, so I can start off with this one. I've seen several females throughout my career and peers that have done just this, taken a break for, the first 5 years until their children become school age. I personally did not take that route. I worked continually through, but it is definitely a challenge in learning the balance of being a mom and taking care of your children at home, but also keeping up with your career and your responsibilities. I think from a workplace standpoint, being flexible, that's what was always helpful to me, because when your children are little and there's tons of doctor's appointments and, obligations that you have to do to take care of them, and making sure that you manage your work-life balance appropriately so you don't get burnout.
Yeah, the other thing that I would say too is when it comes to development or advancement, regardless of how much time you've spent in the workforce or out of it, I think there's too often that we can fall into this trap of self-limiting behavior and talking ourselves out of it before we've even really fully admitted or considered what our possibilities are. And there's this expectation too, maybe unwritten, that you leave the rest of your life at the front door when you come into work. And that's just not a healthy or a sustainable way to function as a human being. Like, we come in as whole people. So, I think it's really important for us to, as women, as parents, as, whatever hats we might be wearing outside of work, to consider that we can do more or better or different and not limit ourselves. And then, really look for a close cohort of people who can kind of be our advocates and our mentors to help us have those difficult conversations, to say, hey, I think I am interested in pursuing that role over there, or I think it's time for me to expand my breadth of knowledge in this other way and take on this project. I really think it comes down to admitting first for yourself that you can, and then finding that close-knit group of people who can support you along the way.
I love that. When you're talking about confidence in self-limiting, and I think that's completely appropriate and applicable to women, but specifically to working moms, and specifically during COVID in the last year.
And I don't know if we've done it yet. I don't recall myself doing it through the entire program yet, but we have to give a round of applause to all of our moms and our working moms out there, because what you do is incredible. So hopefully all of you at home watching are clapping right now. We've got some great questions flowing in from the chat, so go ahead and keep those questions going for us. Question, AJ, and I'll let you direct it to the panelists here. One of the first questions here that we have is, with that gap between men and women, what is it like to work in such a heavily male-dominated field? The person continues saying, I assume there are challenges, but is there any positive aspect to it?
Mina, I'll direct that question to you. I know you've worked in both larger and smaller companies. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I have one specific example that comes to mind immediately. I was invited to participate in a design review for a new facility that we're looking to open. I think in the course of 2 days, I drove 11 hours for a 2-hour meeting, and I had no idea what to expect. I'd never participated in anything like this before, and I was the only woman in the room. And so I'm looking at all these blueprints and understanding the scope of the project, and the one thing that I contributed was, hey, do you have any provision in this layout for a dedicated space for a new mom who might need to express milk at work? Do you have a room we can use for that? Because I don't see that anywhere on here, but that was what allowed me to have 3 children at my previous employer, was that I had a place to pump. And they're like, no, we'd never thought of that. I'm like, good. Then I'm glad that I came and participated in this design review, because that's the impact that you can have as a woman in a heavily male-dominated field, is that you bring insight that isn't necessarily going to be right in their back pocket or anywhere near front of mind. And that has been hugely motivating for me, is knowing that no matter what, there's a chance that I can say or offer something that will be unique and novel and provide value.
And really provide a difference in other people's lives. That's amazing.
That's great. We've got another question coming in here that I'll send to you, AJ. That question is, what support did you receive from your company when you returned to work from maternity leave? Does your company offer maternity leave?
Brooke, if you want to share with your history of maternity leave.
Yeah, that's great. So I worked for 2 companies across the time period when I had my children. Both of them did offer maternity leave. As far as returning to work, it was seamless. I was allowed to work a flexible schedule, work around doctor's appointments, the needs of children, finding childcare that worked for my schedule at the time. When I had my first child, I was on 2nd shift. So it's not always the easiest childcare services to find, but they were very accommodating and welcoming back. You know, when you do get back, it wasn't, what have you been doing for the past 8 weeks? So it was a very good experience.
Yeah, there's one thing that I can add there too. Before coming to Phoenix, I worked for General Mills, and they had this amazing benefit, which I'm sure they still do today, called phase back, which meant that after I had taken advantage of my full maternity leave, I could work a part-time schedule for up to 8 weeks upon my initial return. So I could ease my way back into the full work day and work week. And that actually enabled me to keep my children out of daycare for that much longer, because we had arrangements with grandparents and whoever else that allowed us to work that out. So I think it's important to look not only at maternity leave, but at the re-entry point as well, is how can we continue to support our new moms who really might have no idea what they're facing as they set foot through the door on that first day, and provide other opportunities for support.
I love that. That's an amazing benefit.
I just started watching the show This Is Us, and there was a scene in This Is Us where it's like the parent is talking about what they do in front of the entire assembly of students, and it was really difficult for him to explain what he does. So my ladies here, what do you tell your children about your job as a manufacturer? That's one of the questions that we have.
Brooke, what do you say to your kids?
Yeah. So, you know, I work in the protein food industry, which has its own controversies around it. Being headquartered in Smithfield, we often can be targeted by other groups. And so my kids see that and they're like, you know, why do you want to work there? And I answer them, and we are feeding the country and essentially the world with the product that we supply. It is needed across the entire country, and every one of our employees plays a vital role in getting that product to the consumers, whether they're getting it at, you know, a local restaurant or a fast food restaurant, the grocery store. It's all coming and being sourced through, you know, these companies, and it's just essentially necessary. So I explain to them why it is there and the purpose and the function.
Yeah, for me, I've had to explain what manufacturing is, what engineering is, what quality is, and we're at the point now where I think my 9-year-old does a better job of explaining what I do than I do myself. She keeps it real sweet and simple, and she says, "So you make things, and then you find problems that you can fix about the things that you make, and you make them better." I'm like, yes, that's precisely what we do in quality and in manufacturing, where we're making things that you can touch and feel and see and experience, and they get a pretty big kick out of that.
I think I'm going to steal that from now on. Make things and fix problems. I love it.
Yeah. Try to do the same in my household. It may not be as effective.
And as working moms, that's what we do all day long.
Yeah.
That's so great. We've got a couple minutes left here, so let's try and get a few more questions in. One of our next questions is, we know that flexible work policies go a long way in supporting moms in the workforce. Are manufacturers able to provide that, and what does flexible work look like in manufacturing?
Yeah, so I think one important point to make to answer that question is first to consider that flexible itself as a term means different things to different people. So, as I think about our production workforce, who largely are on a fixed schedule, it may be that flexibility for one of those workers is the fact that they're on 12-hour shifts, 3.5 days a week, and that's it. That's their same schedule. It's predictable. It's routine. They can structure the rest of their life around that. Flexibility looks different for someone that's working in a support function. It might mean they want to have the option of working 4 days a week on site and then having one flex day that they can work from home. So I think it's really important for manufacturers to look at every position and look at the possibilities of what flexibility could mean for that position and see that the work itself can still get done in a variety of ways. And for there to be, again, more of those conversations that open up what the possibilities are for any particular individual or any particular job.
Brooke, is Smithfield, or have you heard of manufacturers doing things like increased PTO or split shifts or job sharing, telecommuting, rollback hours, any of those kind of flexibility policies that you've seen?
Yeah, definitely. I think in light of all the challenges last year through COVID, it definitely had us rethink and alter kind of the traditional schedules that we had specifically for our production workers. Like Mina said, those schedules are very fixed. I mean, you do need to have people on the line working, but allowing for some sort of flexibility with their schedule and making sure that we can have everything covered. And again, for our support teams, working from home, that was never really done before within our organization, but we had to make a sudden shift and adopt to that. And I think it allowed our leadership to realize we can be equally or more productive working from home, which was very enlightening.
Yeah, I think it's demanded of us to cast some light on policies that either didn't exist or just were no longer adequate. There was no such thing really as a formal flexible work arrangement policy at Phoenix, and now I'm involved in writing one. So I really think that there's so much opportunity here in manufacturing to redefine what normal is or could be, and I'm just really happy to have a voice in that.
Fix the problems.
Yeah, exactly.
No problems. One last rapid fire question for you. Rapid fire, what is it that excites you day to day about manufacturing?
Challenges. Yeah. For me, it's challenges. Every day is different, no matter what role I've been in, and just fixing the problems and making things better.
Yeah, thanks for the extra 10 seconds, Brooke. I would say I love that there's a combination of technical challenges and people challenges, that we can become technically better the more that we take care of our people and have them wholly engaged in their work. And that's what I love the most about my job.
Well, all of you ladies are absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your stories with us today. with that, that'll be the end of our panel, and I'll bid you all adieu to go be moms and to go make manufacturing happening for us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
With that, I want to thank you guys so much for joining us here for our Creators Wanted event, celebrating women, Women's History Month here, and we couldn't do it without them. Once again, I'm your host, Aaron Smalls, and if you guys are looking for more information, make sure you guys check out creatorswanted.org. We'll see you guys next time on Creators Wanted.